Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome to another edition of Kal's Corner radio show here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, as I say at the top of each episode, because it's true, the purpose of the show, what we do is we cover everything from politics to the paranormal. Now, that's, again, quite a variety of subjects. It's all over the map. And almost every single time it's completely unscripted. Even when we do have guests on here, we don't really work it out ahead of time. We like to kind of just let it flow and let, people be people, including me be me, for better or for worse. So in that spirit, let's let it fly. Let's first wrap up some things, a brief summary, if you will, of some of the international stuff going on. It's kind of a continuation of what's been going on for kind of at least this last year. North Korea is still North Korea. There's no real progress. But, of course, their leader, who loves to show off his white horse, I'm just glad he doesn't take off his shirt like Vladimir Putin does, wouldn't want that kind of competition. He, of course, is promising some sort of Christmas surprise. He wants some attention. When North Korea wants some attention, they, of course, act up. And usually that means being a belligerent and, of course, launching missiles towards Japan, making threats, things like that. We'll see what happens. It's funny about the Trump White House because, let's be blunt, they have not been candid nor truthful about this sad state of so-called relations with communist North Korea. Now, in all fairness to Trump, let's be honest, the United States has never had good relations with North Korea for the only reason that North Korea doesn't really want them, all right? They don't want them for two reasons. They don't want them. They're communists. Secondly, in the Stalinist model, they were not friends of the U.S. either. Stalin was not. Secondly, China controls whatever North Korea ultimately does, and that cannot be taken out of this equation. For those bleeding la-la left-wing liberals and progressives and Democrats who stupidly think that, North Korea has any real independence, boy, that's beyond ignorant. It's like saying the earth is flat. It's just never going to be true as long as it remains communist the way that it is. In fact, not surprisingly, communist China, which is really a totalitarian capitalist dictatorship, they're, of course, North Korea's biggest trading partner. They supply most of their military. without China's lifelines, North Korea would collapse because it's incapable of handling its own affairs. It has that kind of special talent, and that's independent of any sanctions against it. Again, it's that talented. Now, that's the reality of what goes on in North Korea. Now, in the beginning, you saw what looked like some sort of honeymoon between Trump and communist North Korea. You saw Trump go there. He got kudos for that. You saw them, meet at the border, the neutral zone, and all that other stuff. They had their photo op. They did the token steps into each other's, territory as far as North Korea, South Korea goes. And, of course, they were supposed to start disarming and all that other stuff. It was never really true, at least that part of it. North Korea never really gave a concrete sign that they were really going to do that. It was always a myth, and the myth never had any facts behind it. If the White House encouraged it, shame on them. Optimists in the media, on the internet, they were just projecting. North Korea never said anything that was even close. In fact, later, about a year after that process, the White House went public with the admission that North Korea never even defined, over the course of a year, after signing the so-called protocols between the two countries, U.S. and North Korea, that they didn't even define what disarmament meant. Think about that, folks. They're supposed to agree to disarm, but they don't agree what disarmament means. So it means it's a non-starter. It's not going to happen. Anything else is just nonsense. It's theater. And that's exactly what we've been getting. It's bad theater at that. It's about to get worse. And for those who fear that North Korea is going to do something stupid and attack and try to wipe out a country, well, as long as they value their own existence, it's not going to happen, folks. And I remind people that although it came within seconds of it happening, or minutes at times, throughout several times in history, that World War III almost did happen between the former Soviet Union and the U.S. during the Cold War decades. North Korea, the Ayatollah Khamenei, these dictators, these tyrants, including Bashar Assad in Syria, they all want one thing. They share in common. They share many things in common, but at the core, they want to survive. This is why bin Laden never sacrificed himself. He had other idiots sacrifice themselves for them. And that's what these people do. They either gladly do it because they're bozos, morons, whatever. They just don't think critically, or they're forced to do it. They have no choice. In the case of Joseph Stalin, in the case of World War II, he had Soviet troops behind his own troops, shooting them in the back if they took a single step backwards. That motivated his troops to move forward towards the Germans, fight tougher, fight stronger. The poor soldier in the middle was, caught between both sides. What was that soldier supposed to do? Well, better to fall forward than fall backwards, right? As I've heard many people say. I remember, for example, having this conversation real quickly in India many, many times after I got there, after I moved there. It was interesting because, of course, every time that I met new Indians, which was all the time, literally every day, of course, in the capacity of my jobs there at Daily Post and Daily World newspapers. Again, some of the titles I had there was branding manager, HR director, columnist, special advisor to the owner, part of the security detail, online editor, head of the online team. I could do many, many different things. I helped launch those papers as well, was part of the team to do it, was recruited because they wanted to run them by Western standards. And I was the only white person or Gora there, the only American. There was no other non-Indian who was there. And it just was a blast during these 7 years. And I remained great friends with the owner. He's a wonderful, incredible, top investigative journalist. And the reason he has a security detail has nothing to do with the fact he's the owner of a paper. When I arrived for my interview, the people who greeted me and brought me in and made me sit there had Kalashnikovs. That's what they have, okay? They protect him. And they're Punjab police. They're official commandos. They're friends of mine because I got to know them. And what was interesting is I thought when I went in there that this is just how it is in this part of the world because Pakistan's a neighbor. This is Punjab. It's not far from the Pak border. And it's, Pakistan is not a nice neighboring country. There's terror. They sponsor terrorism, send terrorists through Punjab all the time. And I knew I was going to start covering that subject. Not only did I know about it before I moved to India, but I'm actually not that far from the border. And, of course, things are going to happen. Depends on how long I live in India. And again, over 7 years and time goes by, many incidents, wrote many specials about incidents that happened up there with terrorists. A lot of those attacks didn't make the larger Western news or main headlines on CNN because they just don't cover that. Maybe their Asian edition does, but, you won't see that in the Western California edition so much. Anyway, the reason I mention this is because the reason that these countries do this is to remain belligerents. That's it. Let's be blunt about it. So in the sense that in Daily World, how we would go ahead and do exclusive scoops and things like that, we're going to bring that kind of focus, if you will, to the UFO field. And we've talked about it before, and that's why this is all related. It's not one big tirade. It's time for a reversal of course in the UFO field, in that a lot of the stuff that has commanded most of the attention in the field going back for the last couple of years, I'm talking about essentially ever since the New York Times ran that game-changing story, give them credit for it, about Harry Reid's ATIP program, where he gave his donor, Robert Bigelow, $22 million in taxpayer black budget money to study UFOs and think about threats some 40 years out and so on. Again, this is public information. We've talked about it before. I've been part of a small group of people that has helped expose problems with this whole thing and what happened. Investigations are still continuing on that. Well, ever since the New York Times broke that story, UFOs are everywhere again, even in Drudge, the world's most popular news portal. Every week there's a couple of UFO stories now off of the Star and other papers. They have featured it. Everybody from guest Rob McConnell has had on his show, like Bob Kiviat, and they covered what he was doing over the Pandolfi lawsuit. There were other ones, of course. Most of them have been about the Nimitz encounters and what To the Stars Academy has done and what Tom DeLonge has done. They also report the newest UFO sightings. One of the reoccurring themes here is this snake-like object that keeps reappearing. So again, you're seeing patterns here. Waves or whatever. And in the media, UFOs become in and out of vogue based in part on the public reactions and perceptions and interest in the subject. But also now today, they come in vogue and they start being promoted everywhere in the same way that ABC News is now promoting everything related to Disney because they're owned by Disney. And of course, the new Star Wars ride is out. The new Star Wars movie is coming. Their big hit currently is Frozen 2, okay? And, of course, they're promoting that. And then all of a sudden, ABC News kind of becomes a PR machine instead of a dedicated, hardcore news investigative agency, despite what they're saying. So things have changed. Fluff has become everybody's stuff today, and it's unfortunate. And just yesterday, I sent this article to a former teacher of mine, a man I still am honored to say I'm in touch with from my high school years. He was a key influence, remains a key influence, Jerry Laparoff. I'll mention him. I've had him on my show before when we were broadcasting Cal's Corner from India, from Daily World TV, before it started being rebroadcast on the X-Zone Broadcast Network here. And it showed that half the jobs in journalism have been lost. So we'll talk about this after the break here and prove how it has impacted even coverage of UFOs, and not for the better. We'll be back.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shaman worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Shamanic healing is the key to personal empowerment. Why? All four levels of our being, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, must be addressed for us to enjoy balanced, healthy, abundant lives. Yet there are few provisions for spiritual or energetic healing. Shamanism, found at the root of all cultures, is a very effective spiritual healing modality. To find quality shamanic healing you can trust, regardless of where you live, look no further than Find Your Path Home Long-Distance Shamanic Healing Program. All Path Home long-distance healing practitioners have been trained and certified through Path Home Shamanic Art School. Change your life. Live abundantly. Schedule a long-distance shamanic healing session with Gwilda Wiyaka or one of her quality practitioners today at findyourpathhome.com.
Welcome back to the second segment here on Kal's Corner radio show here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. Once again, my name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, real quickly, before I forget the point I should have mentioned in the previous segment, my apologies, about those Kalashnikovs. The reason I mentioned them is because, again, when I went for my interview for Daily Post to work for Manish Tiwari, again in all those different capacities, became best friends. I thought, okay, there's armed guards, police here because, they have them everywhere. It's India. It's near the Pak border. No, it turns out that, yeah, they have that, but that's a separate issue. The reason these guards were here and going everywhere with him is because he has protection, because his investigative journalism and exposés, he was bureau chief for the Hindustan Times. I know that means nothing to anybody except unless you're Indian, outside of India. But India has a lot of people in it. Canada, America, they're blips on the radar population-wise compared to India, China. That's just the way it is. So when Hindustan Times is a huge newspaper, he was the bureau chief. He has put many people in prison because of his investigative journalism. One of the things I love about the guy. And it was an honor to be part of his security detail and his special advisor and so on. And there's no question I was. That's why I have to kind of laugh at my critics who have never been anything close to this, weren't involved. And yet here I am doing all of this, and thousands of articles were published. And you can't take it out of history, and real history matters. Anyway, okay, back to the media. So UFOs are back in vogue. And it happens every so many years. There's no pattern. I remember they were on a roll at the turn of the century with millennial madness and all that other stuff. Things were still going strong. And then 9/11 happened, and because aliens were not wearing suicide bombing vests and bringing down skyscrapers, people didn't care. They had other concerns, and I understand that. It's logical. The whole UFO thing, paranormal thing, got out crazy anyway, fanned in no small part by the exploited media in the around the millennium, because that's what they do, and people do freak out, around that time, they did. Remember the Heaven's Gate cult? They killed themselves. Wasn't a very smart thing to do. And I know from firsthand experience how the game is played, because I'll share with you real quickly a short true story. When I had found out what Roswell was really caused by, and this was by the time I had figured it out, and I'm one of the 4 original Roswell researchers, to recap real quickly, and you'll see why this is related to the media issue. Again, I grew up with Bill Moore and Stanton Friedman, okay? And as the press chronicled in newspaper articles, which Rob McConnell first published in an issue of the X-Chronicles newsletter several issues back. This is shortly after Stanton Friedman died. It was an article I wrote about 5,000 words about the Stanton Friedman that I knew. And there were problems between Stan Friedman and I as I was growing up, because I saw problems with his data and his conclusions, his statements. He was practicing at times what, by his own definition, he taught me this word, UFOlogy. He said UFOlogy is when somebody makes a statement or a conclusion about UFOs, which is not derivable from the data. In other words, it's not true. It's not only not true, it cannot be derived from the data. That's a key caveat here. You can be wrong, but when 2 + 2, you say equals 7, that's UFOlogy, okay? It doesn't. It's 4. Get over it. So much of what today is called ufology is really UFOlogy, let's be honest. People are saying all kinds of things, disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. They've been saying that for decades. And we know who made that up. I remember that because I knew the people, all right? I mean, this is a matter of record here. So I grew up with Stan Friedman and Bill Moore. And Bill Moore is the co-author of the original Roswell Incident book. It put Roswell on the map. Stanton Friedman discovered Roswell, the case, but he wasn't the first one to write about it. Instead, Bill Moore co-wrote the book with Charles Berlitz of the Berlitz language and family fame, all right? The reason Berlitz's name was added to the book, as Friedman openly admitted, it's not a secret, and I know because, again, I was there during this stuff when it was going on. They told me I was at their house, they're at mine, vice versa, and all that stuff. We're all friends. Basically, there was a 4-page outline, and they didn't even look at it. The publisher, Gross and Dunlop, said, "How much money do you want?" So they got around $100,000. It went into 26 languages, something like that. Made millions of dollars, put Roswell on the map. But Friedman didn't get that. He didn't get the glory in that book. He didn't like that, let's be blunt. So what he did is he, riding the momentum and the best-selling status of the Roswell Incident, which was a bestseller, and I met Bill Moore for the first time when he came out to meet me. I lived in Union City, just, 2 blocks up, as in 2 house levels up from Stanton Friedman's house. And what happened is he came out on a tour, we met, and we became very good friends. So much so that we saw each other all the time, especially secret, and we'd go out and investigate together. In fact, a transcript of one of our joint investigations, sorry to tell people like Mikey Horn this, but this is reality. Bill Moore and I, along with 2 other people, went to the home of Ken Dinwiddie, who worked for De Anza Systems. And they're the ones who ran the computers for Genesis 3 and Jim Delatoso when they were supposedly analyzing the Meyer photos. And you saw those images in the original UFO Contact from the Pleiades, Volume 1 book. And what I noticed in high school, because I knew all about that technology, I was writing about it, getting published in Saga UFO Report. I later had the UFO photo file column, working with Ground Saucer Watch as a co-author. In fact, I was the only member of Ground Saucer Watch who was allowed to join the group who was under 18. They had a special meeting at that board and approved it. Okay, whatever. I was happy to be part of it. Wrote articles with Spalding. We tried to use computer imagery to look at computers to look at UFO imagery and then movies, films that were taken of UFOs. And we came up with a list of 46 cases out of over 1,000 that were studied. About 5% of all the cases remained unidentified, but nothing that we could say, that's from Zeta ridiculous. No, we just couldn't find that. Tried but couldn't. All right, so this is all, again, a matter of public record out there. People who are my age now, for better or for worse, remember this stuff. It's been out there. A lot of it's not on the internet because it was before the internet existed. Unless somebody gets off their duff and bothers to put it up there, well, unless it's shared somewhere else, it's going to be lost to history, and that's too bad. Okay, so all this was going on, and I'm in high school, and I write an article about the Meyer case, and it becomes the lead story for Saga UFO Report magazine. It's the lead expose, story of the year as well. It makes their annual edition as the main story, and it exposes the Meyer case, and it caused a reaction. The Meyer people happened to come to the Bay Area where I lived. I met them shortly later, it was a couple months. Got into a confrontation with Wendell Stevens. I'd already known him through correspondence. Met Jim Delatoso for the first time. He was less than friendly. And then after that went down, and I wrote about that, added it to the original article. And then what happens is Delatoso comes out, I think it was 2 weeks later, meets with Al Reed and Barbara Reed and myself for 3 hours. We recorded the whole thing. It was 3.5 hours. The whole transcript was typed up. And as soon as we looked at what Delatoso had said and reread it, we knew where he was lying, let's be blunt. I started making phone calls to verify it, and sure enough, it fell apart. And I wrote up the results of that, and that was another part of this report. And Bill Moore came over to visit me one day, and he says, Kal, I'm looking at all this thick Meyer stuff. You even got stuff from Europe that Meyer gave to your friends. Meyer doesn't know you, he knows them, tried to give them stuff to convince them, convert them. They didn't believe it, don't care about this stuff. You heard about it, so they sent it to you like, go ahead, kid, have fun. Then I find out it's a hoax, too. Show this stuff to Friedman. He says, yeah, it's a hoax. Talked to Coleman von Kavitsky, who sent me more stuff, too, who had gotten it straight from his friends in Europe from Meyer. So I'm getting all this stuff from different channels here, directly from Meyer. And the reason they're parting with it, to me, is because these adults know it's BS. And it's like, here, kid, knock yourself out. We have more important things to do. And so Bill Moore says, Kal, you have enough material here for a book. I'll tell you what, I'll publish it, okay, through my publishing company, and you just get it all camera ready and do it, and we'll see how it does, and we'll print a few hundred copies, see how it does. So it sold out. And then we're like, well, do we print more? Well, yeah, we wanted to, but I wanted to do a longer book. I wanted to be more extensive in my investigation of Meyer. Bill Moore did not want to pay to have for a trip to Switzerland, so it didn't happen. I paid for it myself later, but of course by then I had sold the book to Prometheus Books. Years had gone by, including Gary Kinder's book had come out. More of the Meyer stuff had come out. Wendell had gone to prison, had served 7 years for child molestation incidents. That's a matter of record. There were 15 counts. He cut a plea bargain down to 3, served 3 7-year concurrent terms. For the record, I was the journalist who broke that story. I leaked the story to Jim Moseley of Saucer Smear, who published it, and then I went clean in my book with the court documents saying, yep, it was me, folks. I did break the story. In fact, Wendell called me and a researcher named Greg Long, not the Greg Long of Bigfoot fame, another UFO researcher, asking for help to get out of his dilemma because he was guilty. That's the truth. All right, we're going to take a break and come back, and I will explain why this is all relevant to the media today, because I'll give you a real how it used to be versus how it is today. And if you don't adapt to how it is today, it ain't going to work.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome back to the third segment here on Kal's Corner Radio Show on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff. I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. All right. So in the old days, there used to be a certain cycle of how you would release a product that you can, count on. And I know this from firsthand experience because I did it for many, many years. Again, I started lecturing when I was 13. I had my articles published when I was in high school. And, of course, my first book I wrote in high school, it was called The Meyer Incident, published by Bill Moore, Townscribe Press. He paid for it all, and he was editor on it. And it was a success. It later led to the book Spaceships of the Pleiades, the Billy Meyer story, which was published in expanded form by Prometheus Books. That, of course, included Meyer material that had never been shown before, courtesy of Billy Boy Meyer himself. He just didn't know he was giving it to me. He thought I was Steve Thomas because I fooled him. Anyway, it's all in the book. All right, so back then, the routine was this. If you were going to have an article out or a book, you would contact the local newspaper. And they'd usually do a story on you if it was kind of like that, or if you were doing something more than that. Because if you live in a small town, at least, local boy makes good or whatever. In my case, I was in the Bay Area, populated area. To be honest, I don't know why the media took interest in me, but they really did. And I remember I was so naive as a young kid. I kept telling the reporters, please don't mention my age, because if you do that, nobody will, buy these tickets and come see me, and then I can't give the money to my school, as a fundraiser. And they're laughing, saying, no, because of your age, that is a story. And I said, no, that's not the story. The data is the story. I'm just a guy talking about the data. The fact I'm 13 doesn't matter. So we eventually reached a compromise, and yeah, they put the age and the photos in there and all that, but at least they got a lot of the quotes right. That's what I cared about. All right, so anyway, what you did is you got in the newspaper. There was no internet back then. And maybe you could get on the radio. You try to do both, all right? You do a mailing because you didn't have email. Or you'd call them up on the phone, and then they'd usually say, well, fax it to me, or, go ahead and mail it to me. So you'd mail it to them. And then if you didn't get a response, you would follow up with a phone call. The point is you would keep working the phone lines until you got accepted or not, all right? And then same with the newspapers. You would gin up a press release, a press packet. I remember making those. I never included my photos. They just assumed I was an adult because I typed things up. And then when they met me and realized I was a kid, well, then the story kind of changed. That stuff had to be put in there, according to them. All right, fine. Okay, and that was pretty much what you did. Maybe you did a few appearances there. If you have a book coming out, you try to do a book appearance, and you go down to that bookstore, and of course they're going to promote it too. And then you got to call your publisher. They've got to order extra inventory and so on. Hopefully they're putting out a notice saying you're going to appear in an area. And then they theoretically contact the bookstores in your region saying you're going to be there. And if you have half a brain, you also call all those other ones, especially if you are doing it in a place like Seattle or the Bay Area. Again, this is what I used to do. And you then kind of go in a circle or counterclockwise and work all of them and arrange a bunch of personal appearances for many different days, stay with a bunch of people up there, whatever. It's like you're running for president. You shake a bunch of hands, kiss a lot of babies, whatever you got to do, get the word out there. It's all good. You just network with people. I remember before I went on TV in Portland, Oregon to debate and expose Roswell. My Roswell book is out. It's become the best-selling Roswell expose of all time, much to my surprise. And I have to go debate Stanton Friedman, and we're going to be against each other on the show. And this is the first time since the book has come out. And it was funny because when I went out there, I was busy with other appearances earlier in the day. There was a book signing that I had to do at Barnes Noble. And then after that, I went to the University of Portland. And I never use notes. I just wing it. I figure if you can't talk about your subject, shut up, okay? That's why I don't debate anything I don't know about. But everything I do debate, I know about. I'm either the person who knows about it, or I know the person who does, or I know enough to be able to defend it. And that's why I've never lost a debate. If I can't debate it or defend it, I don't go there because there's no point. There isn't. I want to learn, okay? But don't tell me that Roswell didn't involve Mogul because I know better. Don't tell me the Billy Meyer case is real because I know better, all right? Same with Bigfoot, the Patterson film. I know the guy who wore it. I know the guy who made the suit. There's no question. He even sold it to Roger Patterson. Yes, people are still stupid enough to believe the thing is real, even though we know the guy who made the suit and sold it to Patterson. Oh, Patterson must have bought it because he was doing other things with that fake Bigfoot suit. He wasn't faking a Bigfoot film. He would never do that. He just happened to see Bigfoot shortly after he bought it. Oh, my God. People are so stupid, but they believe it. Okay, that's the way the world rolls, for better or for worse. Anyway, back to what you used to do. There was kind of a short cycle. It was short and sweet. And I kind of miss those days. Now you cut to today. All right, we've got more ways to communicate than we've ever had in our entire existence as a life form. And yet there's so much noise out there now that it's hard to rise above the noise unless you either make stuff up or pull some stunt where you stand out. It's tough out there. And then you not only have to rise above the noise, but times have changed. If you say, I was abducted, nobody cares except UFO nuts, and they're not the majority, thankfully. It's just not really news anymore, okay? It's like, oh, another one. If you think Uncle Sam has aliens stuffed away in pickle jars, no one's going to say, damn, I never thought about that. No, because it's been there, done that, like in the 90s, okay? You can take it back to the days of Roswell. And you can actually track this. Roswell got a boost again after it was dying down when Unsolved Mysteries ran their episode. And after they ran it, not coincidentally, all these new witnesses suddenly showed up out of the woodwork, and every single one of them was a fraud. Frank Kaufman, just ask Kevin Randall. He'll tell you about Kaufman. Yes, he was a fraud, like I always said he was. I'm glad others finally realized that, after he's dead, of course. Glenn Dennis always said he was a fraud, too. But, it took his death to figure that out. These people, some of them knew. They were just hyping, milking it, stroking it, whatever, not telling you the truth. Again, my book exposed all this because I was there and I knew it. And when problems happened between Stanton Friedman and I in high school, documented in the media, shown and captured by photographers for the press, put in the papers where you see the look on my face as I'm looking at Stan, like I just can't believe what I'm hearing. And I'm in high school. I figure if I can figure it out, what is his problem? He's Mr. Educated, right? Mr. Flying Saucer Physicist, as he used to tell me. That's how I heard the name. Anyway, I got closer to Bill Moore as a consequence of that. Friedman didn't publish anything of mine. I'm not criticizing him for it. It's just that I became closer to Bill Moore. And Bill Moore stayed more true to Roswell than Stanton Friedman did. Stanton went off the deep end. He started to endorse hoaxer Gerald Anderson. Bad move. I tried to warn Stan. He just wouldn't listen. There was that book coming out, Crash at Corona, where he says 2 saucers crashed. Oh, really? on July 4th. How double patriotic of them. It was just so stupid. But that's the way it went. Even Bill Moore said that was it. Independent of the games he played financially when he didn't tell me the truth about that book, blah, 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 because he said he was busy. The public falling out they had, matter of public correspondence against each other, was out there years ago. I'm not going to repeat it. It's a matter of public record, and I'm not picking on anybody, okay? Don't even go there. I'm simply recapping what happened as a matter of record because most people who will listen to this show don't know this info, and I think they need to. It puts it in the right, proper context. You don't get that right, proper context if you just try to chase this down on Google. And that brings me to the current point here, and it will go into the fourth and last segment of the show. We'll wind up on it because it's relevant to what Rob and I are doing with the UFOlogy project. As I head into the final stretch here of this segment, and we'll be back after the break into the next one, we come to today's problem. We have more ways to communicate than we ever have. But what are we doing with our blessings, with our wonderful means to communicate? There's billions of cell phones out there now, but there's not billions of new images of UFOs showing up, are they? So you have to look at this two logical ways. Either the aliens are so smart they're suddenly changing their behavior so that not everyone in the world will catch them on their iPhones. Or it just ain't there like these UFO promoters have lied to you and have claimed. Yeah, I think that's probably more the answer, right? Remember, folks, how they used to scream? I remember as a kid, oh, if we only had the money to have thousands of cameras out there. Well, now you got billions of them, baby, billions and billions, to quote Carl Sagan. But the data just doesn't flow in, does it? Because it isn't there. See, you can't have it both ways. As I tell people constantly, there's no such thing as being a little bit pregnant. And I really don't care what you think of that analogy. It's apt. There's no such thing. Just like there's no such thing in this case about, well, the data's there, the way we've been saying, and selling you books and doing all this stuff, all these decades, buy my book, whatever. But, you know, the smartphone thing, well, I'm sorry. The smartphone thing is reality. What these people are selling and hyping is not. And here's where it comes to the crux. Why can't you find on Google the truth about a lot of this, as Rob and I can break it down in our memories if we just do brain dumps and share our experiences over a beer with anybody? We were there. Yeah, we're that old and that experienced, for better or for worse. Why? Because the whole way the thing is being done now is wrong. And unless somebody makes a point to fix it, it's going to only get worse. Now, we'll talk about that point after this break and tie it all together, because Rob and I are going to work to fix it, and hopefully others will follow what we're doing and actually join us. We'll be back after this break.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Did you expect your business to flourish, but instead it plateaued or didn't get off the ground yet? Would you like to achieve massive goals and discover new sources of income within your business? When you're ready to experience that type of success with fast results, Cindy Hendricks is the business coach for you. Her work with entrepreneurs and business owners has been life-changing. To get you and your business where you want to be, go to imaginemoresuccess.com.
Has the fear of public speaking stalled your business or personal life? What would you give to develop and maintain supreme confidence? Have an invaluable private program to always perform at your best. Imagine how you would feel. You can have all that and so much more today with Thomas Hides' life-changing course called Number One Fear Unleashed. Visit numberonefear.com and be liberated from your fear of public speaking.
Welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on Kal's Corner Radio Show on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, the reason this is relevant as I wind this up in the last segment here is, as you've seen if you listen to my show, and of course you'll know this if you listen to Rob's, or I think any decent show that goes into any length on something at times, you hear things from people who were there. They either witnessed it, participated in it, made the history themselves. In some form or another, they were there. So what happens when you Google, say, the Betty Barney Hill UFO star map? Well, almost overwhelmingly, whether you Google the Hill case or the star map, you're going to see nothing but rainbows and unicorns and sweetness and light. It's all good. It's all true. It's all been verified. You'll see a lot of stuff out there by Stanton Friedman because he was the world's greatest champion of that case. And he now goes down in history. And he knew this before. This is proven in the documents that Rob and I are going to release in Volume 2 of UFOlogy or UFOOLogy, which is about the Hill case. It is a smoking gun definitive title. I spoke about this book many years ago in Prague, never got it out. I thought the files had been lost after many years. Turns out they weren't. They were brought to India, and, the show relaunched when I was living in India. I was actually in United Arab Emirates at the time and relaunched the first episode of Kal's Corner, returning back to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcast from Abu Dhabi at that time, and made the decision, had been working on the Zeta Reticuli conspiracy movie, had gotten 1 hour and 1 minute of it filmed, when I made the decision to merge the Atterberg documents, which had been found, the originals that Friedman was aware of, and they proved that Friedman always knew the truth about the Hill case, that the star map was not credible. But that's not, you'd never know that by buying or listening to everything he did. And this is all proven in the book. And I know this because I was there. I was the person who handled this issue. And this and Roswell and the Delphus, Kansas case, the Rex Heflin case, I can cite chapter and verse, and I'm going to in these books. Watch out, folks. It's coming, and it is a course correction. And once this stuff is out, and again, this is all stuff that I'm writing with Rob McConnell, and the format is very simple. There's original material in there that both Rob and I have. We are fusing the two together because it's a logical thing to do. For example, the new book, the first one, Volume 1, UFOlogy or UFOOlogy, it has the marketing slogan and the theme, and it's dedicated to the theme of real history matters. Real history, matters. Real history matters. Or real history matters. Both ways, because it does. I know what caused Roswell. I am the best-selling Roswell author of the expose book on Roswell of all time. Awkward sentence, but I think you get my point. I'm one of the 4 original Roswell researchers. After my book on Roswell came out, which means it exposed Friedman, Bill Moore met with me in LA at the MUFON meeting and said, yes, it was Mogul. You're right. So the agreement of everybody but Friedman is there, except UFO believers, people who are in denial of the truth. And don't let them convince you it's your problem. No, they're the ones with the problem. Just because they say or quote Friedman doesn't mean anything. They weren't there. They're not one of the original Roswell researchers. And if they're quoting the data like Donald Schmitt and so on, then they're not even quoting data that has withstood the test of time. My book made a point to expose all 22 best-selling books that account for almost all the public knowledge on this case. And it takes them all out. Check it yourself. It's fully sourced. It has withstood the test of time. For anybody who doubts it, you still believe Roswell involved aliens? Well, where's your data? Where's your evidence? All this decades later, still. Where is it? Show it. Produce it. Come up with something. No, there's no one even alive anymore, buddy. No. So there you go. Let it go. Move on. Get a life. Whatever. But just accept the truth and be happy that you found the truth. It may not have been what you wanted it to be, but you know something? When you go to a casino and you take a chance, most of the times it isn't going to come up your way either. That's life. You must always remember a golden rule in ufology, which ufologists never even pay attention to. You must always take the alien explanation and set it aside immediately. Whenever you start investigating UFO case, you take that explanation and you set it aside. And you never go back to it unless you've eliminated everything else. And that's a long list. Depends on the case. If you've eliminated everything and the only thing left is alien, then you found your answer, Sherlock. But if you don't get to that point, then don't dare say it's alien. And this is a big problem. It was a big problem when I was learning about this subject with Friedman and Bill Moore. They weren't doing this, but others were. Simple, real example here. I would go out and investigate a case. And I would be very careful when I'd investigate or talk to a witness. I would not say to them, what did the flying saucer look like? Because I don't know what it looked like. I don't know what the witness is going to say. Maybe they didn't see a flying saucer, but maybe it was something that was kind of round, but not quite a saucer. But maybe because I described it that way, I'm leading the witness. I'm not supposed to do that. So I'll say, tell me what you saw. Take it from the beginning. Freeform, brain dump, let it all out. Let the recorder go. Take notes as well. It's all good. That's how you start this. But today it's, well, let's see. We saw a UFO from outer space. Gee, is it related to this case? They've already prejudged it. It's ridiculous. And some of the people who are out there now that chew up a lot of cyber time, who are considered the leading lights of this field, I call them right-click wonders. Oh, my God. If this is not ufology, it is not even good ufology. So let me tie it all together here. You have now, a couple of years after the New York Times did their thing, you have the media, which is owned by only a handful of companies now, refusing to air the truth about certain UFO cases because it might devalue another property they own where they want to sell you a travel on a paranormal tour, see? So, yeah, they're going to hype this case because, the channel that's dedicated to traveling, wink, wink, might go ahead and, want a skinwalker tour, wink, wink. Now, these are examples that my non-existent psychic powers are going to show are going to come true because dialogues have been taking place, folks. I'm going public with this now, behind the scenes with some network executives. And they're basically sweating, some of them, because they're being confronted with evidence now behind the scenes that, we not only can prove that this is not true, but you had a chance to do it the right way and say and investigate this properly rather than go in business with some of these guys who are promoting a hoax. And not only that, some of you have been caught paying to stage a hoax so that you can market it as real later. Oh, folks, this is going to get great because another round of this is coming. So this is all going to start with a book that was deliberately hyped by its publisher in the same way that the book Light Years was hyped by its publisher, and I exposed this story. I was the only one who did in my book Spacious of the Pleiades, the Billy Meyer story. This was the true story that 3 editors at Atlantic Monthly Press resigned in protest over the publication of Light Years by Gary Kinder. And when I was on the Hypercar team, my boss was neighbors with Gary Kinder. Gary Kinder didn't know that. That was kind of a secret when I went over to Billy Meyer's cult undercover and posed to Steve Thomas. Again, small world, folks. This all happened. Again, I was there. So this book that's coming out, the first volume of UFOlogy and UFOOlogy, written by Rob and myself, fuses our 2 efforts to get to the truth of Annie Jacobsen's claims that she had in her best-selling #1 book, Area 51, The Secret History of It. Well, as Rob proves in 3 separate interviews, done, the latest one just done days ago, the other one's done over a period of, I believe, over a 2-year period. They show over this 2-year period, these 3 interviews, that one of the Area 51 scientists, the main guy she interviewed, he says that she threw them under a bus. They're not happy with what she did. And the details are in the interview linked from the book that Rob gave. That's where the details are. Not going to go into it here. But it's in the book, Annie Jacobsen's Area 51 book Scandal. It is volume 1 of the new UFOlogy, UFOOlogy series. In a very short time from now, we're just finishing up the new site. The website's going to launch. You're going to be able to get the book. And there will be areas on the website where Rob and I are going to track the latest stuff going on and stuff being said by other UFO groups on social media and all that. We all know each other. And we're going to give it a simple thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up if it's ufology. It'll be a nice looking green alien, okay? Little green men, right? We can make him gray, whatever color you want. But the red alien with a frown, he's not happy, that's UFOlogy, okay? So this is going to be fun, folks, because you'll be able to see with one little symbol whether what you're being told is ufology or UFOlogy. And we'll be able to answer those questions, and you'll be able to link to the data that'll be fully sourced. And this is not something only Rob and I are going to do. We're going to open this up to everyone who's qualified because there's a lot of good researchers out there who tell the truth and they need their data exposed. They're doing ufology or they're exposing UFOlogy. It's time that we have a place where people can go there and see whether what so-and-so says or about this case is either ufology or UFOlogy. It's going to be great because there's nothing like it right now. There's places that claim to be watchdogs and all that other stuff. while endorsing people with uneven standards of evidence. We're not going to do that. You'll be able to check everything, because what makes facts the greatest thing of all is that anybody can verify them anytime they want to. It doesn't matter what people's opinions are, and that's what we're going to rely on. Join me next week. We'll continue this.